Uh, Good morning. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Mike Friel. If you haven't seen me before, some of you have. Quick admin note before we begin. I know that we don't exchange compliments very often in this line of business. We have our jobs to do, and if we're doing them well, we have a good relationship, and that's been my goal from the beginning of being at CBP. Of course, since 2005, I've been in a role of doing public affairs work for CBP. I've recently made a decision to depart CBP for personal reasons, to spend a little bit more time with my family. As I told the commissioner and my staff, my heart and soul is here doing public service, serving my country in this way. This is where I feel like I fit very well. So with that in mind, you are in good hands. We've got a great team. Rusty Payne is our acting director of media relations, and you'll enjoy working with him, of course. But I did want to take a minute just to let you know that I will be departing CBP on the 21st of February, and it's been a real honor and privilege to work with you. I think as I was thinking about the last time I would be in front of you and in front of the podium, if we're doing it right, we're serving the American people well together. We're committed to giving them the truth. You're committed to finding the truth, and we do that best when we're working together. And just been a real honor and privilege to serve in this way, and thank you for the opportunity to have worked with you and your colleagues over the years. So with that, today's briefing, the purpose of it is to talk about January enforcement results for CBP. We have with us Acting Commissioner Mark Morgan, and after initial remarks, we'll get Q&A. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. And to echo, what Mike said, I think that our relationship that we share and what we do together in this public domain is critically important. So we're committed to finding a replacement as fast as we can and keep the relationship going, and hopefully there won't be a hiccup. But thanks, Mike, for everything you've done. I'm sure we'll be in touch. So, and speaking of that, so. Good morning. As you know, each month we try, we put our stats out on the website. And but again, to kind of echo what Mike is saying, I think it's important, though, to stand in front of you and have, back and forth dialogue as well, and not just, put the stats out on the website and leave it there. And I think it's important that we put some context to it. I think it's important that I answer some questions to explain what is really meant and what the numbers and what the crisis means to both our national security and public safety. And when we talk about the crisis and the threats we face as a nation that's impacting our borders, it's not just about the immigration crisis. It's not just about the southwest border. It's a complex, multi-layered threat that really impacts every sea, land, and airport in this entire nation. So today, I am going to indulge you and take a couple of more minutes to talk about the threat beyond just the immigration crisis and beyond just the numbers. And hopefully this will make sense, is that because I think it's important, no matter what crisis or threat we're talking about, there's one thing in common. And that's the transnational criminal organizations, the cartels, the human smuggling organizations, who have shown a complete disregard for the safety of other human beings, exploiting people and violating the laws of our nation. That is the one commonality through any crisis that we're facing and any threat that we're facing with respect to CBP's duties, roles, and responsibilities. Their actions have resulted in the deaths of thousands of individuals in this country and jeopardizing the safety and security of countless more in every town, city, and state in this country. We should be standing together, attacking the individuals who are part of this what I call greedy, heartless, and dehumanizing organizations, whose only motivation is power and money. And there is no question that in 2019, we definitely experienced an immigration crisis along our southwest border. The number of illegal migrants arriving at our southwest border steadily increased, and we've talked about this for a long time, which reached this peak last May. It's important to understand, though, the context. The crisis was stemming from the the flow of families from the Northern Triangle countries, Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. That was really the crux of that crisis, that immigration flow that was going, the magnitude that we've never seen before. So this is that part of the crisis where the numbers were so high, where the flow was so unprecedented, a magnitude we've never seen before that we had to address. Getting the numbers down of illegal aliens with meritless base claims that were coming from the Northern Triangle, specifically families, was our focus. Our system was beyond capacity, as we've talked about. The loopholes in our current legal framework were being exploited, all while human smuggling organization raked in hundreds of millions of dollars on the backs of these migrants, all while using them, abusing them, and treating them nothing more than a piece of merchandise. And we tried time and time again to ask Congress to help us address the crisis, to address the threat. Time and time again, they failed to take action. They sat back and watched as the threat grew. They still have failed to take any meaningful steps to pass any meaningful legislation to actually positively impact this crisis, to take away the money from these criminal organizations who exploit these migrants. But this president has, or Congress has failed to act, this president has. The president's network of carefully considered policy initiatives implemented by CBP, ICE, and other partner agencies now apply to nearly 95% of aliens who cross the border illegally. This is key, and I want to expand on this. And I've said this before. We have all but ended catch and release. And make no mistake, these initiatives restored integrity to our immigration system and to our laws. If we encounter you, if you're illegally entering this country, you will not be allowed into the United States. You will be promptly removed and returned. And I think that's a key. Again, I want to emphasize that. Because of the network of initiatives and policies we have, just eight months ago, the majority of people that we were accounting, because of loopholes in our legal framework, because we didn't have the tools, we didn't have these initiatives, we were allowing these individuals into the interior United States. And let's be honest, it's never to be heard from again. That has all but ended. 95% of who CBP is encountering, we are either removing you, returning you, or applying a consequence. And I think that's critical. So in January, let's talk about what we experienced in January. 36,679 illegal immigrants were encountered on the southwest border. That's 75% lower than the peak of May, and that's 37% lower than this time last year. Our focused efforts to address the flow of illegal immigration from the Northern Triangle countries has been incredibly successful. Think about where we were just 8 months ago, and think about what that means. 144,000, 36,000. So that means in a month's time frame, we have reduced the number of illegal immigrants by 100,000. And I like to put it another way. That's more than 100,000 migrants in a single month that we have prevented them from risking their lives in the hands of the coyotes. That means fewer migrants are being forced into tractor trailers by the coyotes and suffering unimaginable conditions. And we've seen that again and again. That's not a one-time thing. That's a regular occurrence, how these individuals were treated. Fewer migrants fewer immigrants found dead from exposure after being left by the coyotes to fend for themselves. And I'm hoping this means that we're going to see fewer rescues than the 4,900 that we performed last year because we have reduced this flow. These are tragedies that we don't talk enough about, but it's very real. Now, while this number represents the 8th straight month of declines, smuggling organizations are changing their tactics. You know this. We've talked about this before. This is a money-making business. This is all about money and power. And they're going to do anything they can and smuggle anything and anybody they can to continue to make money. And what have they been doing? That's exactly what they've done. So now they're starting to appeal to other vulnerable groups. Since we've all but addressed the crisis for the Northern Triangle countries, the families coming up, we're not done, but again, the 75% reduction, they're looking to other vulnerable groups. And they're doing this because we've hurt their pocketbook significantly. Let me give you an example. Now we're seeing more individuals from Mexico. So this time last year, about 61% of those we were encountering were from the Northern Triangle countries. Now, 8 months later, that same percent, about 61%, are actually Mexican nationals, and the majority of those are Mexican single adults. In fact, single adults from Mexico have increased 32% from this time last year. We're also encountering what we refer to, and I think you've heard this before, extracontinental migrants. That's people outside of North America. The number of CBP encounters, for example, Brazilian nationals, reached an all-time high of nearly 20,000 in fiscal year 2019, and that trend is continuing. The human smuggling operations have had to widen their net because of our success in mitigating the flow from the Northern Triangle countries. As I've said, we've taken millions out of their pocketbook, and now they're scrambling to come up with new tactics to increase their net and exploit a wider vulnerable group. And because of this, along with seasonal trends, and historically we've seen, this is a time period where historically we see that the numbers go up. We're seeing the number of single adults begin to slightly rise. But this is where I started off, and this is what's important, because this is where it becomes, it's not just about the numbers. They only tell one part of the story. While we remain committed to further reduce the overall numbers of those trying to illegally enter, what's equally critical is our ability to apply effective and timely consequences to those who do, as well as remove the loopholes in our current legal framework that's being exploited. And that's what we've done, and that's what we're going to continue to do. We're in a very different place than we were just 8 months ago. Now, regardless of the numbers, regardless of the demographics, we have the tools because of this president, because of this administration, to apply a removal, a return, or a pathway or a consequence to 95% of those who CBP is encountering, rather than letting them go in the interior United States. So that's a key takeaway. The numbers are going to fluctuate. I wish we could get down to zero individuals illegally in the country. That's just not realistic. And so it really is our ability to close the loopholes in our current legal framework and apply an effective removal or return pathway and or consequences, regardless of the numbers that we encounter and regardless of the demographic that's trying to illegally enter the country. And by doing that, we're going to continue to dismantle and make it really hard for the criminal organizations to continue to make money on the backs of these migrants while they're exploiting our law and our systems. And I also started off by talking about this is much more than just immigration, because our border security efforts do not end with illegal immigration. The same criminal organizations also profit from drug smuggling, and their reach extends well into our nation's interior. So what we do at our borders, and I've been saying this for a while, impacts every community, not just along the southwest border. And while the opioid epidemic remains a crisis, methamphetamine seizures and meth-related deaths are up. And I think that's key. And that's a fact that should be a wake-up call for everyone that's unaware of the nexus between the America's drug epidemic and our borders, specifically the southwest border. I talk about this sometimes. I think that to a lot of Americans, especially in the interior of the United States, the border seems very distant. It's like it's not connected to the threats that they have in their communities, and that's just false. And that's another narrative that we're trying to counter. Let me give you a couple of stats. The most recent data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show that from May 2018 to May 2019, there were nearly 25% more deaths involving meth than the previous year. To put this in perspective, the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation reports that meth surpassed marijuana as the most seized drug in the state in 2019 for the first time ever. In Wayne County alone, 90% of drug arrests in 2019 were meth related. And as we know exactly, when we encounter the drugs at the southwest border, we know exactly where they're going, into every town, city, and community in this country. Just last month alone, CBP seized over 53,000 pounds of drugs. 50,000, it's about 53,736, and just over 50,000 pounds were seized along the southwest border. This year, meth seizures are up 51% from last year. So I'm painting that picture of when we talk about the crisis, when we talk about the threat along the southwest border, it's much more than just illegal immigration. And I can give you numerous examples of our drug seizures from California, Arizona, Puerto Rico, Texas, Kentucky, even Toronto pre-clearance. It goes on and on where I could give you examples of where we're seizing drugs all across this nation, and we're assisting our partner countries do the same thing as well. And what I've just described are two key aspects of CBP's border enforcement mission: illegal immigration and drug trafficking. And make no mistake, these activities relate back to the same criminal organizations. They don't just do one or the other. They're doing it all. Again, anything to make money. And here's another controversial statement. I know this is, but let's be clear and be honest. I think this is important if we're going to continue to work together to address this very real crisis, this very real threat. Not everyone trying to illegally enter the United States is good. Not everyone trying to illegally enter the United States is vulnerable. In fact, there's some very dangerous people trying to enter this country illegally every single day with the intent to make their way into every town, city, and state in this country. In just the first few months of FY20, CBP has apprehended over 1,000 criminal aliens, including sexual predators, violent offenders, human traffickers, and weapons violators. We've also apprehended more than 170 gang members this fiscal year alone. And this is just what we've caught. There are tens of thousands of more that we haven't caught. That should concern everybody. Last year, when I gave the stats, those numbers were in the thousands of criminal aliens that we apprehended. Over 1,000 gang members last year. That should be alarming to everybody. So when we talk about the need for securing the border, including the need for the wall, including the need for more technology and personnel, the crisis and threats we face are more complex than a single issue. Looking ahead, we know that this spring, we're going to see a new cycle of increased illegal immigration, as I mentioned before. Beginning last month, for example, large groups of migrants began forming south of the border between Honduras and Guatemala. However, this time, things were completely different. Just a few short months ago, 8 months ago, caravans that were forming in May, we saw between 40 and 50 caravans in one large groups in a single month. They were able to travel through the Northern Triangle countries and transit through Mexico at will, and in times that they were being facilitated to do so. That game has changed. You saw our partners in the Northern Triangle country, Mexico, they stood up and they did exactly what they should, and they addressed this as the regional crisis it is, and they disbanded those caravans, did not make it to the Mexico-U.S. border. And these partnerships are absolutely essential. And that's exactly why I visited El Paso, Guatemala, Honduras last week. And I met with government leaders to continue our partnership and reiterate our commitment to ending the immigration crisis, as well as addressing other threats that we share in common. Through asylum agreements, training programs, and other border security initiatives, we're working to improve the capacity of these countries to combat illegal immigration and interdict drugs and firearms and go after the TCOs. And I think this is key. Improved border security will enhance their economic prosperity. It will reduce illegal immigration to the United States and result in improved national security for both countries, for all countries. It is abundantly clear to me as I interacted with the leaders from each of these countries I visited just how committed they were to working with their regional partners, including the United States, to bring hope and prosperity back to the citizens of their homeland. It was palpable. When I interacted with them, I could tell that they were committed to doing everything that they could to do just that, to address the threat, to bring hope and prosperity back to the citizens of their country. To the migrants who are planning to embark on the dangerous journey north, our message is clear. Don't do it. Don't risk your lives. Don't risk the lives of your family, because the game has changed. Yeah, 8 months ago, your chance of being allowed in the United States was pretty high. As I've just iterated, that has changed. Catch and release is all but done. You're not going to be allowed in the United States while you're waiting your immigration proceeding. It's just not going to happen. So it's not worth the risk like it was. I would also say to them, maintain your hope in your leaders, support your communities, and find a way to energize your youth to stay and help build your future rather than leaving it behind. I saw great potential while I was there in all three countries. Now, I want to emphasize, I think this is important, that we're using every resource and tool available to us, and we are absolutely committed to protecting the American people, securing our borders, and safeguarding our national and economic security. And the president, along with CBP, has demonstrated this commitment in a variety of ways. One significant way I'm going to keep talking about is the wall system. We are absolutely committed to continue to build this wall system. Right now, we're well over 115 miles, and I'm still absolutely confident by the end of 2020, by the end of this year, we're going to have 450 miles of wall built in key strategic locations that the United States Border Patrol, CBP, has asked for, and the president has committed to delivering. We've demonstrated that commitment in our continued disruption of the criminal enterprises who build cross-border tunnels, for example. We just released the discovery that we had last August of the largest, most sophisticated tunnel that we've ever seen. That should concern everybody, that these TCOs and these cartels are committed, 100% committed to doing everything that they can to exploit our laws and harm our citizens. Tunnels is just one example of that. Their ability to pour countless narcotics into this country, again, killing tens of thousands of American citizens. Look, another way too, when I talked about that mission being vast and wide, just recently we released a counterfeit action plan the president signed. I think that's absolutely important because that's another example of how transnational organizations through flooding this country with counterfeit merchandise is harming not only our economy, but also the public safety of every citizen in this country. Now, look, while we've been hard at working to protect this country, others have been working to undermine the integrity of our immigration system through dangerous sanctuary city policies. These sanctuary cities policies jeopardize public safety and the efforts of our partners at ICE, as well as other law enforcement entities. We stand with our brothers and sisters in opposing any effort to limit cooperation with the federal government's ability to enforce the rule of law, maintain integrity in our system, and to do our job to safeguard every citizen of this country. I am proud of CBP's relentless commitment to our wide-ranging critical law enforcement mission. I'm proud of the men and women of CBP and ICE, and I'm grateful to the president and his administration and our partners who make these successes possible. So I know that was a little bit long, but we're trying to expand a little bit beyond just the immigration numbers. And with that, I'll take some questions. Yes, ma'am.
The DOJ announced this week it was filing lawsuits against New Jersey and King County and Washington for their sanctuary policies. Why is this necessary, and should we expect more kind of actions like this from the Trump administration?
So I can't speak specifically on what the Attorney General is going to do as far as the lawsuit, but let me make it very clear. Look, this dates back to the 9/11 Commission report. If we recall, and I'm encouraging everybody to go back and read the 9/11 Commission report. I actually dusted off my shelf and I reviewed a couple of key chapters in there. If you really look at one of the major focuses of the 9/11 Commission report, what did it focus on? It focused on sharing information and sharing intelligence. And it really hit hard American law enforcement intelligence communities for having stovepipes and not sharing information and intelligence in an effective manner, which really allowed the terrorists to carry out their attack. So since then, that's exactly what we've been doing. Law enforcement, state, local, federal, we've been working hard, very hard at knocking down those stovepipes, increasing our ability to share critical and legitimate law enforcement information to do our job. And so any policy anywhere, sanctuary city or not, it doesn't matter. Any policy that sets us back of a couple of decades of work that impedes our ability to get that information to do our job, absolutely. I've been in law enforcement for a heck of a long time, 2.5 decades, and this is unprecedented what we're seeing. I can tell you right now, from my perspective, we're taking a step backwards. Any sanctuary city, we are taking a step backwards. And this is not about driver's license. This isn't about illegal immigration only. This is about our ability to do the totality of our mission. Whether it's terrorism, border security, just general health and safety of the public. So I applaud the Attorney General for filing this lawsuit and holding these individuals accountable, because make no mistake, every one of these policies, especially in sanctuary cities, those cities in this country are less safe. Yes, sir.
In your trip to Central America, Was there anything specific that that the United States needs from these countries? Is there anything that they agreed to do? Can you talk a little bit about what's going to happen next in terms of any agreements for repatriating their citizens or citizens from other countries? What's next there?
Yeah, I think we need one. So it's a good question. I think one, we need them to continue to do what they have been, working with us, and not just the United States, but other countries in the region as well, signing agreements. Look, we've signed multiple agreements. I think one of the probably one of the most wider known is the ACA agreements, for example. But those aren't the only agreements. They've signed additional border security initiatives that really enables us to share information, share intelligence, help provide them the ability to increase their capacity, both to address the flow of migration, but also to address the security threats as well. Again, I always say when we talk about security, that really is the doorway to open up to greater economic prosperity. You can't say or address one without the other. Both of those things are integrated. And all three countries, Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, I walked away with a very, very high confidence level that they get that and that they're committed to that. And so what we're expecting them to do, and what they are doing, is just remain committed to working together. We're looking at in Guatemala to increase the individuals in the ACA that they're taking. We're looking to Honduras to get the ACA agreement that they're going to sign across the finish line, hopefully in the next week or so. And we're going to keep working together. And here's what was a significant takeaway as well is they're committed to that. But it's not just about the United States, right? It's not just about working with the United States. It's also about working with their partner countries in the Northern Triangle country as well as Mexico. Because part of that, when we talked about, wasn't just about the flow of illegal immigration, but it was also about legitimate trade and travel, right? So we also had a tremendous, healthy discussions, very productive discussions with respect to how CBP can help facilitate and enhance a more effective and transparent trade regime in all three of those countries as well. It was a very productive. Very productive, sir.
Commissioner Morgan, thank you for holding the briefing. There's a report out today from Doctors Without Borders regarding the MPP program, and specifically they're looking at Nuevo Laredo. And they said in October, 75% of the patients they treated were described as being kidnapped. And I'm wondering if you're aware of this issue, that returnees sent to Tamaulipas have been targeted for ransom by cartels, and if you think you should change the program's guidance as a result of this.
So no, the program should not be changed. I want to make clear that the MPP has been a very successful program. It's been a successful program on multiple fronts. One, it's really showed and facilitated the ability of Mexico and the United States really to work together to really address this, as I've said many times, as a regional crisis that it is. This isn't just a crisis for the United States. It's a crisis for all countries in the region. I'll give you an example. The Northern Triangle countries I just visited, I was surprised to learn about the high percentage of young people that they have, 25 years and younger. And what all three countries said to me is please, United States, continue to work with us because our youth, our best and brightest, our future is leaving to go to the United States. So this is not just a United States problem, right? It's a regional crisis. So the MPP has been very successful in that area. And let me make very clear, if there is a criminal act that is conducted, there is only one entity responsible for that. And that's for the human smugglers and the cartels who are doing that criminal activity. That's who is responsible. That's who we should be attacking. That's who we should be going after. It's remarkable to me that time and time again, when we see cartels, we hear of cartels doing horrendous things, that we don't attack the cartels, that we don't attack the organizations that are actually committing the heinous crimes. And I can tell you, our staff has been to Mexico. I've been to Mexico. I visited shelters in the Northern Triangle countries, and what I saw there was not what is being reported with respect to the level of crime. What I saw is centers and shelters that were doing everything that they could to make sure that they're receiving and treating people with humanity and compassion, and that their safety and security was a paramount to them.
Are you taking any steps to stop this ransom and cartels extorting?
Again, what I would say is that those reports, again, we're working with the government of Mexico, and the report that you're citing is not what we're hearing. That's not what we're hearing, and that's not what we're seeing. We've discussed this before. Again, there's a couple of nuances to there. We are encouraging people to go to shelters instead of living in the makeshift tent cities that they have. There's several reasons why they're doing that, unfortunately, rather than going to the shelters. And we're trying to work with the government of Mexico to message that better, to get to the shelter environment instead of being in those camps. But we're working with the government of Mexico every single day to help them in any capacity that they need us to. So, yes, ma'am.
Thanks again for doing this. How are you coordinating with the Department of Homeland Security on the issue of sanctuary cities? And are there discussions to suspend trusted traveler programs like Global Entry to other states or take other CBP-related measures?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And I think that, again, I'll reiterate because I think it's very clear. This is not about driver's license, right? That's not what this is about. And the New York Green Light Law is unique from any other type of policy or law that's been enacted to restrict access in this way, is that the New York Green Light Law specifically targeted CBP and ICE, specifically by name, CBP and ICE, and denied access to CBP and ICE for all New York DMV data. That is what is different. And so for us immediately, and I'll speak for myself, this is not putting off on anybody else. As the commissioner of CBP, when I first learned of that, I immediately got the staff together and I said, how is this going to impact our ability to do our mission? And not just our immigration related mission, but our terrorism mission, our legitimate trade and travel mission, as well as our immigration mission. And so we got together quickly, and it absolutely is impacting our ability to do our job. Think about that. And then I talked about the 9/11 Commission report. I mean, New York at this law, we've gone decades backwards. I just don't understand it. We can't get basic information. And I can give you a couple examples. So the Trusted Traveler programs, I think most people understand what that is, but there's a stringent set of eligibility requirements for Trusted Traveler, as it should be, right? That means that you're not going to be subjected to the same thing as the average citizen because you are, quote, a trusted traveler. So for us to be able to do that, we've got to look at your background. We're conducting an interview, and we're making sure that you are the lowest risk possible and you meet the eligibility requirements to be a trusted traveler. And part of the information that we rely on is DMV data. That's partly what we rely on. And so it goes into totality. You take that away, that really inhibits our ability to make an effective decision on whether you're a low risk or you meet the eligibility requirements for that. That is about public safety. That is about us doing our job. I'll give you another real life example. Border Patrol, they pull a car over and they've got a New York plate. They're not going to get any information back on that individual or that vehicle. That is a real issue. That's a public safety issue for the Border Patrol agent as well as the individual in the car. Now we set up a whole different set of circumstances. How do you approach that car when you don't know anything about the vehicle? How about once you do make contact with the individual and they have a New York driver's license, but we can't get any information from New York on that driver's license of that driver? And I could go on and on and on. So this is a real issue. And let me make, I think, another important thing. As the commissioner of CBP, the largest law enforcement agency in the United States, federal law enforcement agency in the United States, we have thousands of individuals in New York working hard 365, 24/7 to protect the citizens of New York as well as the rest of the citizens in this country. But yet no one from New York gave me a call, had a conversation, or asked me before they pass a law how this would negatively impact our ability to safeguard this country. They passed a law and held a press conference.
And Just to follow up on that, did DHS communicate with you that they were going to take this step to suspend the Trusted Traveler program?
Absolutely, and again, I'm glad you asked that because yes, we were from the moment we found out about this. I actually communicated with the deputy secretary and secretary, telling them of the concerns that I had as the commissioner of CBP, as well as ICE and other DHS components. So we actually communicated with them, and I support the secretary's letter, and I support what he's trying to do 100%, because this is an issue, and I hope that if other states try to enact similar laws, that we take the same action. And what I would say is, I encourage New York to reach out and to work with us and to come up with a compromise where if they want to give driver's license, again, that's their purview. But I would hope that they're willing to work with us to achieve the goal that they want, but also allow us to do our job to safeguard the citizens. Instead, they're just threatening a lawsuit. Yes, sir.
Back to Guatemala, how are you making the decision to send people there as opposed to put them in MPP? It's a little vague how the decision is being made. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, so we have several different initiatives that we use, and every situation is a little bit different, and so our goal really is to return them to their home country. But MPP, the genesis of MPP is if they claim asylum, then we're going to return them to under MPP. If they claim credible fear, we're going to return them to Mexico under MPP. So they're going to wait in Mexico while they're waiting proceedings in the United States. If you're outside of that, then you're going to be amenable to ACA, and we're going to send you back. Yes, ma'am.
For the first time in years, the number of Mexican nationals apprehended actually was higher than the number of people from places other than Mexico. Are you concerned that Mexico's stagnant economy could be pushing the population north?
Yes, I think, and that was so. That was one of my key takeaways here is that the demographics have changed, right? And just like we have the push factors from the Northern Triangle country, those same pull factors exist for Mexico. So they're the same. And I think that's spot on. Another thing, that was reaffirming when I went down to the Northern Triangle, all three countries, the overwhelming individuals, their data intelligence shows the same thing that we have, is that, again, the overwhelming majority of migrants are economic migrants. And so, yes, the intelligence we have, that's playing a role. Seasonal trends, the economy challenges in Mexico, and again, the Coyotes and human smuggling organizations, this is what they do and they do best, is they take this opportunity, this vulnerable population, they exploit it, and then they're exploiting the challenge with the economy right now to really drive and convince and trick and lie these individuals that their hope and prosperity, just trust us, we'll get you to the United States and everything will be fine. And I think that's another key to talk about as well. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but again, I think the intellectually honest thing to discuss is once individuals reach the United States, that's not the pot of gold for all these individuals. Many of them still are trafficked further. They're exploited further once they reach the United States. So we're trying really hard to get the truth and message out to these individuals. Again, this is about the legal process and not putting your hands and lives in the hands of these coyotes who are just laughing all the way to the bank.
Thank you for the briefing. There's a memo circulating that appears to show the Seattle field office sending a directive to officers to stop and question nationals of Iran and some other countries. And it mentions something called a TTRT, a Tactical Terrorism Response Team. Mm-hmm. Is there a broader effort to target nationals, either through this TTRT or otherwise, to target nationals of Iran and other countries for heightened scrutiny?
So this, I want to make clear, there's a couple important things. So we do not target anyone based on their nationality, race, creed, color. That's just a false narrative. So just hands down, we do not do that. In addition to this specific incident, there was no national directive either from me or from anybody here at headquarters to single out individuals that were connected to Iran. What is important is we do have, and I think the right word is targeting rules, right? So part of our national security mission, based on the totality of circumstances, we developed enhanced targeting rules to fulfill our mission. And in this case, the totality of circumstances, I don't think I need to go through them all with Iran. Everybody knows that, to include the intelligence bulletin that was put out by DHS secretary, and the totality of that circumstances. Yes, we enhanced our posture. In that specific office, a decision was made to take those individuals out of primary and do that discussion separately from primary. That was not in line with our direction. And so that was immediately corrected, and it was very unique to that one sector. But let me give you an example right now. So the coronavirus, right? We're doing the same thing with the coronavirus, right? So we established an enhanced set of targeting rules or questions with respect to the coronavirus, with respect to the totality of circumstances to safeguard this country. It's the same thing. I mean, the coronavirus, right? I mean, we're doing a lot. We funneled planes coming into just 11 airports, and we're, following obviously the direction of the CDC medical professionals. But that's another example. We are making sure that early on, like for example, if somebody came from Wuhan, right? We were asking additional questions, right? We were taking a little more time with that person if they came from Wuhan. Now, was it because they were a Chinese national? No, right? It was because they were from Wuhan and the coronavirus based on the totality of circumstances. So it was the same thing with the threat that we posed from Iran based on the totality of circumstances. I would say in that one instance, leadership just got a little overzealous, and we corrected that right away.
There's time for one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Commissioner. I have a couple of just follow-up clarification questions. First, are you anticipating another influx of migrants at some point this year along the border? And if so, can you explain that in the context of the success of the policies that you spoke about? The other, following up on my colleague about the actions taken on trusted traveler programs, can ICE and CBP not get information or the same information from the FBI or through the FBI as far as licensing and criminal information goes? And then also,
Hold on, let me answer this first,
sure.
and then you follow. Okay, so because I'll forget. So with the surge, so like the question, complicated answer in a little way because it really depends, right? So what I will say is, again, we've seen seasonal trends, so we're expecting numbers to increase in seasonal trends. We've seen the cartels that are still committed. Whether it's building the largest tunnel we've ever seen in history and encountered, to, again, expanding their wide net to go after additional vulnerable populations and continue to make money. This last caravan that started in the Northern Triangle countries, again, that was done in large part by cartels. In fact, one of the countries in Northern Triangle arrested over almost a dozen individuals that were responsible under their new human smuggling statutes. And so I'm anticipating that the cartels and the TCOs, human smuggling organizations, are going to remain committed, and so they're going to try to start additional caravans and keep that coming. We're going to see the seasonal trends, and then, like I said, in Mexico, the human smuggling organizations are specifically targeting Mexican nationals. So I am anticipating an increase. We're already seeing it right now. The 21-day average is steadily increasing slightly, but it's increasing. And like I said, with the seasonal trends and then this latest caravan, I am anticipating that, and that's why we haven't given up, and that's why we're continuing to work with Mexico. We're continuing to work with Northern Triangle countries to continue to shore up our collective ability to address this specific crisis going forward. That's why we're continuing to work with the president and this administration to continue to give us the tools that we need to address this crisis while Congress has failed. On the trusted traveler program, what was the specific question?
is CBP and ICE, are they not able to get the same information through the FBI?
Yeah, so here, and hopefully, I mean this is respectful, I believe that's the wrong question, right? I think as a law enforcement agency, we should not be beholden to an inappropriate law by a state than for us to have to come up with new methodology to circumvent the law to get that information, first of all. Second of all, the way the law is written is the FBI could actually be held accountable, that's my understanding, to circumvent that law. I think there's some legal jeopardy there because the law specifically states CBP, that DMV should not share that with CBP and ICE. And so I think any attempt of us to circumvent that law would also provide some challenges going forward. The issue is, as a law enforcement agency that is really here to safeguard and protect this country, we should have access to that information when it's for a legitimate law enforcement purpose.
Sir, we know we.
But
She
you
had one
can
more.
access, in theory, you can access FBI data, and the FBI does have access to the same information.
So my understanding is that the FBI can get that information, but in reality, it's not as simple as you think. You know, I'll give you an example. So when I have a Border Patrol agent out on the street and runs across a car with a New York plate, how's that going to work? It's just not going to work. It's just not effective. So I just respectfully dismiss any thought that it's our responsibility to somehow circumvent the law and come up with creative ideas to get the information when we should be getting it directly.
I'm sorry, another clarification on sanctuary city policies. You said that New York's green light law goes further than others in the information sharing context. Other than not explicitly naming CBP or ICE, are there any other policies that have the same practical impact in terms of information sharing, or this policy, in addition to naming those, actually goes further as far as limiting?
So we're working through that right now to verify exactly what specific, because there are multiple states that has different restrictions throughout the country. So we're working through with what those specifics are. But again, my understanding is, and the reason why this is really highlighted for me personally is, this is the only one that I know of that specifically mentions CBP and ICE and specifically prohibits us getting access to all DMV information. So.
Okay, with that, the commissioner has a hard stop, so we're going to have to cut it there. But thank you again for your attendance.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner, thank you for your time.
You bet. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.